Right now, somewhere in your business, someone on your team is copying data from one system and passing it to another. They've been doing it every single day, sometimes multiple times a day, and nobody's flagged it because it's just part of the job. That one task alone in most businesses I work with is burning somewhere between 5 and 10 hours a week, and that's just one task. Today, I'm going to show you 3 signs that your business is hemorrhaging time to invisible admin and you probably don't even know it. I call this the hidden audit because the biggest automation opportunities don't look like emergencies. They look like someone's normal Tuesday. By the end of this video, you'll have a simple checklist you can run on your own business today to find exactly where you're leaking time and whether automation is the right fix. Let's get into it. Sign number 1, task loops. Here's what a task loop looks like. A customer places an order on your website. Someone on your team then takes that order information and manually enters it into your CRM. Then they copy parts of that same information into a project management tool so the delivery team knows what to do. Then they update a spreadsheet that tracks revenue. Then they send a confirmation email. Same data, 4 different systems. One person doing it all by hand. That's a task loop. The same information being re-entered across multiple platforms because those platforms don't talk to each other. And here's the thing, nobody complains about task loops because they don't feel like a problem. They feel like admin. They feel like that's just the way we've always done things. But let's do the maths on this. Say that order entry loop takes around 15 minutes each time. And let's say your team processes 20 orders a day. That's 5 hours a day, 25 hours a week. Over a year, that's roughly 1,300 hours. 1,300 hours. That's more than 32 full working weeks. Basically, you're paying someone to do a full-time job that's nothing but copying and pasting. Now, I'm not saying that every business has that exact volume, but in my experiences, most businesses have at least 2 or 3 task loops running that nobody has ever sat down and mapped out. They're invisible because they are part of the routine. The first step in the hidden audit is simple. Follow the data. Pick any process in your business, sales, onboarding, invoicing, and trace where the same piece of information gets entered more than once. If it's being typed into more than one system by a human, then you have found a task loop. Sign number 2, the admin tax. If you run a team, I want you to think about how your people actually spend their week. Not what their job description says, not what they're supposed to be doing, how they actually spend their time. Now, what I consistently see across multiple industries and team sizes is that a huge chunk of any team's week goes on coordination, not the work itself, just organizing the work, chasing updates, sending follow-up emails, checking whether something's been done, updating status fields, scheduling meetings to talk about what happened in the last meeting, moving tasks between boards, reformatting reports so that a different department can read them. I call this the admin tax. It's invisible overhead that your team pays every week just to keep things moving. And here's what makes it hard to spot. Every individual task feels small. Sending a status update, 2 minutes. Chasing a response, 5 minutes. Reformatting a report, maybe 10. None of them feel like a problem on their own, but add them up. Let's say you've got a team of 5 and each person spends conservatively an hour and a half a day on this kind of coordination work. That's 7.5 hours a day across the team, or 37.5 hours a week. Over a year, that's nearly 2,000 hours. That's the equivalent of having one person on your team working full-time all year just to coordinate. Not to deliver, not to create or sell, just to keep the machine running. And here's the part that really gets operators when I point it out. You hired these people for their expertise, for their judgment and their ability to make good decisions. And a significant portion of their week is going on tasks that require 0 expertise whatsoever. That's the real cost of admin tax. It's not just time, it's wasted capability. Now, not all coordination can be automated. Some of it requires nuance, context, and human judgment. But a lot of it, the status updates and the follow-up chases and the report formatting, this is entirely rules-based. It happens the same way every time. And anything that happens the same way every time is a candidate for automation. Audit step 2. Ask your team one question. What do you do every week that you wish someone else could handle? The answers will surprise you, not because the tasks are dramatic, but because nobody's ever asked. Sign number 3, and this is the one that ties it all together. So far, we've talked about spotting task loops and recognizing the admin tax. But how do you know if something you've found is actually ready to be automated? Because not everything should be. Some things look like automation candidates, but actually need a human in the loop. So here's a simple 3-question checklist I use when I'm auditing a business. I call it the automation ready test. Creative, I know. Question 1. Is the process rules-based? Meaning, does it follow a consistent set of steps? If someone does X, then Y happens. If the value is above Z, then it goes to this person. If there is a clear if this, then that logic to how decisions are made, that process is a strong candidate. If every instance requires someone to think about it differently, weigh context, make a judgment call, that's probably not where you start. Question 2. Is the input digital? This one sounds obvious, but it catches people out. If the information that triggers the process already exists in a digital system, an email, a form submission, a CRM entry, then automation can pick it up. If the trigger is a phone call, a handwritten note, or someone walking over to another person's desk, then you've got a digitization problem before you've even got an automation problem. Question 3. Does this happen more than 50 times a month? This is the volume filter. Automation has a setup cost. Time, thought, someone's money. If a process only happens twice a month, the return on automating it is low. But if it happens 50, 100, 200 times a month, the math starts to get very interesting very quickly. Let me show you what I mean. Let's say you find a process that takes 10 minutes each time and it happens 100 times a month. That's about 17 hours a month. So over a year, that's roughly 200 hours. If you can automate that down to near zero manual effort, you've just freed up 5 full working weeks per year from one process. So here's your 3-question audit for any process you've identified. 1. Is it rules-based? 2. Is the input digital? And 3. Does it happen 50 or more times a month? If the answer is yes to all 3, you're looking at a strong automation candidate. 2 out of 3? It's worth investigating. 1 out of 3? Probably not where you start. Now here's where most people get stuck. They spot the task loops, they feel the admin tax, they run the checklist, and then nothing happens. Because nobody's actually documented how these invisible systems work. And I get it, documenting processes sounds tedious. But here's the thing, if you skip this step, you're building automation on quicksand. And in my experience, the single biggest reason automation projects fail isn't the technology, it's that nobody properly understood the process they were trying to automate in the first place. They automated what they thought was happening, not what was actually happening. So here's what I recommend. Before you touch any automation tool, do this. Sit with the person that actually does the task. Not the manager, not the team lead, the person who does it. And ask them to walk you through it in real time. Watch what they actually click, where they actually go, what workarounds they've built in that nobody knows about. Because every business has these hidden workarounds. Oh, I always check this other spreadsheet first because the CRM data is sometimes wrong. I copy this into a personal doc because the system doesn't save it properly. Those workarounds are critical intelligence. If you automate without capturing them, you'll build something that breaks in a week. Once you've mapped out the real process, not the theoretical one, then you can start prioritizing. And this is where a simple ROI calculation becomes your best friend. Take the time per instance, multiply it by the frequency, that gives you the total time spent. Then ask, what's the hourly cost of the person doing this? Multiply those together, and you've got a rough annual cost of the manual process. Now you can compare that against the effort to automate it and make a rational decision about where to start. This isn't complicated, it's just maths, but it turns a gut feeling of we should automate something into a clear priority list, and that's the difference between a business that talks about automation and one that actually does it. So let's recap. The 3 signs your business is ready for automation. 1. Task loops, the same information being entered into multiple systems by hand. Follow the data and you'll find them. 2, the admin tax. Your team spending significant time coordinating work instead of doing work. Ask them what they wish they didn't have to do. And 3, the automation ready checklist. Is it rules-based? Is the input digital? Does it happen 50 or more times a month? The thing about these signs is they're not dramatic. There's no red light flashing on your dashboard. They hide in plain sight, disguised as just how we do things. And that's why I call it the hidden audit, because the biggest gains aren't in the obvious places. If you want to run this audit properly on your own business, I'd suggest starting with just one process. Map it, time it, run it through the 3 questions and see what you find. See if you get to the point where you're thinking, right, I know what needs automating, I just need help building it. And that's what we do at AIAIO. We help businesses like yours turn these kinds of invisible systems into infrastructure that runs itself. There's a link in the description if you want to have a conversation about it. No pressure, no pitch, just a conversation. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.